This is Algebra 102, video 102 in Algebra. What you see on the board written here are some formulas that you need to commit to memory. There's a lot of formulas that we'll use in Algebra, and some you'll need to memorize and some you won't. Sometimes on standardized testing, they'll give you the formula, but there are some formulas that you should commit to memory. So I would recommend you pause this video and take notes of these formulas here. Let me explain what this means exactly. Of course, area of a circle. That means if I have a circle and I want to find the area inside the circle, to find that I use pi r squared. Well, the radius of a circle, hopefully you remember this, and if not, we'll review this when we get into some geometry and some other things later. The radius is from the center of the circle to the outer part of the outer edge of the circle, and that's your radius. So that would be your radius. Pi, hopefully you remember, is a very long irrational number, but we use pi as 3.14. We abbreviate it, and that's sufficient for pi for our purposes right now. So to find the area inside this circle, all this area inside here, you would take pi and you would, whatever the radius is, if the radius is 2 inches or whatever it is, you would multiply that by the radius squared. So we'll say if it's 2 inches, 3.14 times 2 squared, you would square the 2, which would be 4, and you go 3.14 times 4, and whatever that is, that would be your radius. So that's how you find the area of a circle, real briefly there. The second one is the volume of a cylinder, and that works the same idea. You take the volume of a cylinder, which is very difficult for me to draw, and perhaps you're a better artist than I am. I'm sure that you are, but something along these lines right here. There's a cylinder. So you would use pi again, 3.14, the radius. So the radius of a cylinder, you would find the same way that it would be like right here. That's your radius there, and then the height. The height would be how high is it from the bottom to the top. That would be your height. So to find the volume, the area inside, or the volume of this cylinder, then you would do pi with the radius squared multiplied by the height. So it would be 3.14, whatever the radius is. You would square that, just the radius. You don't square the 3.14, and then you multiply by the height. So that's how you find the volume of a cylinder. To convert Fahrenheit to Celsius, so if it's 68 degrees Fahrenheit, and we want to convert that to Celsius, then we would plug our 68 degrees Fahrenheit into where the F is. And then we would just do the math, 68 minus 32, and then multiply that by the 5/9. And that's how you would convert Celsius to Fahrenheit. Simple interest, this is the one we'll do the most with, because this is something that you need to be aware of when you start to purchase something, especially a car. A lot of people taking this algebra class are in 9th grade, around 14 years old, 15 years old, somewhere in there, and it won't be long before you're looking at a car. And when we take our financial classes here, you'll learn the ideal way is to save money to purchase a car so you can pay cash for it, because you'll find out when you start learning the simple interest how much extra you end up paying for a car when you make car payments on it. Same thing with a house or smaller items that you want to purchase, even that you buy on credit. You pay interest on that. Well, how do you figure out how much interest you pay? Well, the I is the interest. The principal is the amount of what you're purchasing. The R is the rate, and then the T is the time. So let's just take, for example, let's use something smaller than a car right now. Let's say you want to go out and buy a stereo. from somewhere, and you don't have enough money for the stereo, or let's say a computer, that's more practical, a computer. Stereos are actually going out these days because of all the new technology and stuff. So anyway, let's say a computer. You need to buy a computer, and let's say the computer is $800. So there's the cost of the computer. All right, and let's say that you want to divide it by and pay for it over a year, over 1 year. So 1 year, that's our time. And the rate varies. The rate depends on a lot of times how um, much the item is, how long you're going to borrow it for, and then later you'll figure out there's this thing called a credit score or credit, how good your credit is. If you've shown that you've got good credit, you'll get a lower interest rate. If you don't have so good credit, you'll get a higher interest rate. This is a very small amount of money to purchase on credit usually in 1 year. So they'll probably give you a little higher interest rate. So let's just say 15% interest. Okay, and they'll usually show your interest on that. So then you just plug these numbers into this, and it'll tell you how much interest you're going to end up paying. So you would convert the 15 into a decimal, and now take a percent, you just move the decimal 2 places like that, and so your interest would be 0.15. That's how you would show 15% interest. You're going to do it for 1 year, or it may say 12 months, but you convert that to 1 year, so you would put a 1 for that. Your 15 there, and then your principal is the amount of the original item that you're purchasing, your computer, so 800. So there's your principal, this is your rate, and there's your time for 1 year. So you would multiply 800 times 0.15. So this is going to do that right here. 18 times 0.15. You would have a 0, 0, and that's 40, and then you would have put your placeholder there, and then you would have 0, 0, and 8. Is that right? I believe so. And then so you've got 12 there with 0, 0, 0. Now you got to remember your decimal right here. So your interest is $120. So if you purchase an $800 computer on credit for 1 year at 15% interest, you've got to add that 120 to your 800, and when you add that together, of course, it's 920. So you're going to end up paying $920 for that computer. So if you had $800 saved up and you could just pay cash for it, you would pay $800. If you had to purchase it over time using credit, you would pay interest on it. And the interest is the principal times the rate times the time, and that's how you come up with $920. Now, let's just say it took you 2 years to purchase that computer. If it took you 2 years to purchase that, then you would have to substitute a 2 into this, which if it took you 2 years to pay that, and then instead of that, you have 800 times 0.15, then you'd have to multiply this by 2. You'd have to multiply that by 2, and then, of course, that would be $240. And if it's 240, 800 plus 240, so then at that point you're paying $1,040. So you see how much credit can really cost you over a length of time, because the interest adds up and it's expensive. 15% is not a great interest rate. That's a pretty high interest rate, but that's typical probably if you want to purchase something that's small of amount. So the quicker you can pay for something, you'll learn in doing the simple interest formula, the quicker you can pay for something, the less interest you pay. And later on, you'll learn the better the credit you have, usually the better interest rate you get. Somebody with good credit, with really excellent credit, maybe they would have got an 8% interest rate, to where somebody with bad credit could get like even a 21% interest rate. So that's a huge difference if you did the math, and you'll do different problems with this and scenarios. So you'll get to do that later, and you'll see that interest rate, you would pay, more than twice the amount of interest by paying 21%. So anyway, these are formulas. I'm going to erase this now. You'll get to practice with these in your assignments, but these are formulas that you should commit to memory. Right now, if you need to refer back to them, you can as you're doing your assignment, but these are formulas you should commit to memory. And the way this works is a simple algebraic concept. If I have A equals 1, and B equals 2, and C equals 5, okay? And then I do a problem. I say, what is A plus B plus C? What does that equal? Well, then you just plug in the appropriate numbers. So you plug 1 in for A, you'll plug a 2 in for B, and you'll plug a 5 in for C. And you would add those together, and that would equal 8. Oh, 8, not 80. I don't know where that came from. So, that's the same concept of how you'll work these problems. You will substitute in what pi is. You substitute in what the radius is, and you'll do the problem, and it'll equal the area. Yeah. Here you'll substitute in the principal, the rate, the time, and it'll give you the interest. Here you'll substitute in the Fahrenheit, and it'll give you Celsius. Now later you'll learn, what if you're given the amount of interest and you want to figure out what the rate is? So you're given the interest, the principal, and the time. Then you can rearrange this, and you can, when we start solving equations, you'll learn how we can isolate whatever it is we're wanting to find. But for these problems, you're going to be giving the principal, the rate, the time, and you're going to find the interest. You'll be given the degrees in Fahrenheit, and you'll find Celsius. So you won't have to manipulate these problems around. But later on, you'll learn that if you're given any part of this, then you can usually figure out the other parts. So, all right. So that's the section on